Late autumn, Vostrum, end. The siege of Vostrum is over. It was terrible, but at least it was short. The fortifications proved to be as flimsy as I had feared. The Hussites appeared outside our walls 2 days before the autumn equinox. On the day of the equinox, they attacked. The first I heard was our local alley lord, Noseless Ungaron, shouting for all men to run to the walls to help defend, and swearing to cut down any coward where they stood. So I ran there and grabbed a chunk of rubble, imagining that I could heave it down onto Hussite heads. But when I reached the battlements, they were already strewn with our dead, and arrows were flying thick and fast. I peeked over the walls. I guess I had imagined that the Hussites would be standing in a big mass waiting to have their brains dashed out by my rock, but they were spread out and moving, and I realized that I had precious little chance of hitting any of them. Meanwhile, ladders were going up, and our guards were starting to break and run, so I heaved my rock over and joined the general flight back to our keep. I got through the streets, along with hundreds of others, and past the marketplace. We were halfway up the citadel stairs, all scrambling and stumbling over each other, and we could see Hussites starting to enter the marketplace. And then we heard from up front that the gates to the keep were already closed and barricaded, and that was maybe the worst moment of my life. But the Hussites were kept at bay by arrows from the keep, and many of us managed to scramble off the stairs and disappear into the side alleys. I spent that night in a cellar under the tavern, huddled with a dozen or so other survivors of the battle, and in the morning one of the tavern maids told us that our Archon Turiados had surrendered. The fighting was over, and it was safe as it would ever be to go out. They say that when Urkun's hordes first swept in from the east, they slaughtered the inhabitants of any city that did not surrender, and erected pyramids of skulls. Well, 2 generations have passed, and the Hussites have learned that skulls do not pay taxes. They spent a day and a night looting, but it didn't seem like they had killed too many people, and after that they wanted to get Vostrum back on its feet again. And this is when I had a bit of luck. I was gone out to the walls to get water and firewood, and was coming back, and a Hussite archer was monitoring the flow of people back into town, running his finger over everyone's hands before letting them through. When he found the writing callus on my finger, he asked me what I did, and when I told him I was a scribe, he clapped me on the back and said that finding me would get him as great a reward from his noyan as if he'd killed a cataphract. During the looting, someone had thrown a torch into the archives of the basilica, where debt and property records are kept. Somehow the debt register always gets burned when order breaks down, even when other buildings are left untouched. Well, the Hussites didn't care about anyone's debts, but no property records meant no taxation. So they were going around asking local villagers to re-register their landholdings and threatening to confiscate any land that remained unclaimed. They barricaded up the marketplace, plopped me down by my old fountain under guard with a set of pens and a mountain of parchment, then threw open the barricades, and a huge press of farmers, artisans, and landowners surged in. They crowded around me, and from mid-morning until dusk I scribbled as quickly as I could. These acres on the north side of this stream in this village, or a half-share in this or that weavery. And more than a few of them pressed a few pieces of silver into my palm to make sure I didn't miss a detail or forget to add their claim to the pile. When I was done, I found no less than 700 dinars in the folds of my cloak, about what I'd make in 6 months' work as a scribe. A few days later, I returned to the dead orchard and found my cachet. Together, this made well over 1,000 dinars. Now this was a sum that I could take back to my village and buy enough land that a respectable family might think about marrying their daughter to me. Obviously, with robbers on the roads, I could not count my chickens, sheep, cows, and acres before they were bought, but my goal was in sight. I felt a bit drunk. As I was walking back to Vostrum, my mind in a daze of dreams, a Hussite rider appeared on the road ahead of me. I was delighted and startled to recognize the horseman, or horsewoman, I should say, for it was Atun. "Did the eagle get a taste for burrowing?" I shouted. "Are you fighting for the Khan now?" She looked glad to see me, and told me even eagles get tired of hearing everyone in their clan gush and admire someone else's imperial loot, and may desire some of their own. We chatted a bit about our journeys, and she told me a bit about the bickering of victorious Noyons as to who should receive Vostrum. Then I did something rash. I told her that I had managed to save a bit of money, and asked her if she would consider marrying me. I said that I had never killed any enemy, but there was a good chance that my rock had at least bruised someone. Better yet, I had no desire to kill anyone, and thus I would never be jealous that her count should exceed mine. She laughed, and said that this was indeed a point in my favor. She told me that she would consider it. Then she bid me farewell, tossed her hair, and rode off to the Hussite camp. If she does indeed consider it, even for a few minutes, then I suppose it will be the greatest honor anyone has ever done me. I shall now return to Vostrum, draw up a final report for Istiana, settle my tavern debts, and make my preparations for my return to my village.